Why is it important to identify the population with disabilities?
Disability results from the interaction between a person with a functional limitation and the barriers in their environment. The result is the inability to fully participate in society.
The population with disabilities is varied, with different types and levels of disability and with different needs, but the one thing all persons with disabilities need is an environment without barriers. This enables all to participate at an equal level with others.
Because of this diversity, and the impact disability can have on all aspects of life, a variety of measures to eliminate exclusion are needed. The UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, the UNCRPD, was enacted to protect and promote the rights of persons with disabilities.
In addition, the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, are a universal call on countries to leave no one behind and to take measures to eliminate inequality and advance towards the full inclusion of persons with disabilities.
There are two reasons why we need to identify persons with disabilities. The first is to know the proportion of the population with disabilities so that we understand the potential scope of policy needs and impacts. It is also important to know if the disability rates are different for people of different ages, genders, regions, ethnicities, and other characteristics.
Another reason is to know the level of exclusion faced by persons with disabilities. For this, we have to understand how the situation of persons with disabilities differs from those without disabilities in their community. For example, if children with disabilities have lower school attendance than those without disabilities, that is the evidence of exclusion.
This information on persons with disabilities also allows us to know if a country is making progress with inclusion and the implementation of the CRPD and the achievement of the SDGs. We need to collect data that identifies persons with disabilities and compare their outcomes, in areas such as poverty, education, employment, and health, with the outcomes of people without disabilities, in order to identify the gaps between the two. This is called data disaggregation.
If we only look at how the total population is doing in terms of achieving objectives such as the SDGs, we will miss that some population groups are being left behind. Data disaggregation illustrates these differences and informs policymakers where investments are needed.
However, identifying persons with disabilities can be challenging. In many countries, the official number of persons with disabilities is much lower than the actual number of persons who have functional difficulties that put them at risk of exclusion.
This is because of the way people have been asked about disability. If asked, "Do you have a disability?" many people will answer no. Sometimes because of stigma towards persons with disabilities or different ideas of what disability is, or simply because people do not perceive themselves as having a disability even if they have difficulties doing things.
Being asked, "Do you have a medical condition?" also doesn't work because people without access to healthcare might not be able to name their condition. Besides, two people with the same medical condition may have very different abilities to function.
So, to better identify persons with disabilities, we want to focus on the difficulties doing basic activities such as seeing, hearing, and walking. In addition, it is important to understand that human functioning exists along a continuum and at various levels rather than just being present or not.
If we take walking, for example, some people walk well without any assistive devices, some people need a cane to walk long distances, others might need a walker all the time, and there are people who cannot walk at all.
To answer this need for better data on disability and to monitor whether persons with disabilities fully participate in society, a methodology for gathering data was developed. It is called the functional approach, where instead of asking, "Do you have a disability?" the question is, "Do you have difficulty doing various activities?" This approach focuses on the level of difficulty that people experience doing basic activities.
Apart from people being more likely to answer these questions because they are focused on what people can or cannot do, the aim of this approach is to identify people with functional limitations, as this is the group at risk of being prevented from participating.
Following the functional approach, the Washington Group has formulated a set of 6 questions about 6 basic activities: seeing, hearing, walking, self-care, cognition, and communication. This is called the Washington Group Short Set on Functioning, and it helps to identify the population most likely to face restrictions in participation in an unaccommodating environment.
Because there are only 6 questions, the Washington Group Short Set is easy to include in censuses and other data collections and can identify a majority of people with disabilities. It can also be used to examine the relationship between functional limitations and inclusion by documenting differences in participation.
For example, if there is a gap in the employment rates between persons with and without disabilities, that is evidence of environmental or attitudinal barriers. So, in order to get a complete picture of the level of inclusion in a country, the Washington Group Short Set questions have to be collected alongside other types of information, including information on participation as well as information about environmental and attitudinal barriers.
For more information on the Washington Group on Disability Statistics, visit the website at washingtongroup-disability.com.